you feel the vibes.
All about having fun here on the Tech Zone. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. So happy to have you with me on the show. This is our second segment. Don't forget, coming up in our third segment, we're going to be talking about smart home, smart connectivity. Yes, I made that a smart connectivity. Yes. And this segment, I am going to right a wrong. Now, in broadcasting, been in it many years, I've done some bonehead things before, just straight out dumb decisions when it comes to mispronouncing people's names, messing up on interviews, wearing the wrong color, live on television, you name it. I've done some dumb things, but none quite so as dumb as what I did last week. Now, last week, I had a very distinguished guest on, this gentleman right here, Dan Goldin. Now, Dan was a former NASA chief. He's launched space shuttles. He's done a lot of things, worked for 3 different presidents, ran NASA. Very smart, intelligent, and bright individual. Well, he joined me last week, talked about his startup company, KnuEdge. But not only that, I also had with me the chief marketing officer of KnuEdge too, Steve Cummings. He joined me as well to talk about the startup company that they have, KnuEdge, some of the great innovation. So what did I do? Well, me being the smart guy that I am and not having a bit of sense, I overbooked my guests. I had 3 guests last week. Normally I have 2. My guest load was so full that I couldn't get to the interview entirely of Dan Goldin, former NASA chief, talking about his great startup company, and Steve Cummings. But I am going to right that wrong. I am going to play in the entirety my conversation with Dan Goldin. Now, if you'd like to check out the conversation that I had with Steve, you can go to my YouTube channel, Paul Amadeus Lane. Go ahead and subscribe to it. Or you can go to my website, paulonwheels.com. That's paulonwheels.com. And I'm going to right the wrong right now. Here's the interview in the entirety that I had with Dan Goldin, the distinguished Dan Goldin, head of NASA for about 10 years. Here we go.
Going to hand over to Dan to talk a little bit about himself and more about the company.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dan. Welcome to the program, sir. It's an honor to have you on. And how are things going for you today?
They're going really great. It's really a pleasure to be on a program that's based in greater Los Angeles, my old hometown. My daughters grew up here, and I'm thrilled to see the LA Basin have a cutting-edge show like yours.
Thank you so much, Dan. That's really an honor coming from you. And Dan, what made you say this is something I want to do? Started my own company. You were with NASA for many years, and what kind of gave you that desire to do this?
You know, I was with NASA for 10 years. I worked for 3 different presidents running NASA. I launched the shuttle 62 times. I made sure we launched the International Space Station under U.S. leadership, and I think I launched about 174 things into space.
Wow.
that were robots. And in that process, I saw a vision that our information technology systems cost too much, take too long, and weren't user-friendly. And I saw a need to help the American people have tools at their disposal without having to be software experts. Mm-hmm. And the core of the company, the vision that we set up years ago, was we want to empower people to be able to use technology themselves to be more productive in life, to have a higher quality of life, and feel secure when they're using that technology in a time when we have terrible hackers and viruses and other problems. So this is a company that is going to help the future for people here in America and people around the world. And I'll be happy to talk about it, but I was inspired while I was at NASA. I worked in big organizations. I'm an old guy, and I grew up at a time when you went to go work for other people. And I watch all these young people in these startups, and at the age of 65, I did my first startup. And I have an idea, and we have an incredible company, and each of our teammates on that company, we're dedicated to help people having fabulous technology, having it easy to use, and empower their lives.
And Dan, that's awesome that you shared that with us, because I know, like with myself, a little background on myself. I've been confined to a wheelchair for about 23 years, and I am always up on technology because I'm always wondering, is there going to be a technology out there that's always going to help the physically challenged or mobility challenged? And it's out there now, especially with voice recognition. We're seeing all these things. It's really leveling the playing field for all people to really take notice and use technology as it should be.
You know what? It's really important. If you think about it, the most important sense that you have is hearing and speaking. If you're blind, you could be almost fully functional. But if you're deaf and dumb, you cannot function in this world. And that sense is important. And having people who don't have to worry about remembering a password, or having a fingerprint that could be stolen, or a retinal scan that could be stolen, but having a people to be able to interact with a machine and have confidence if they do financial transactions, or if they even want to open up an app and not know that someone else is getting into their app, to just talk to your machine and say a few words, and it knows with certainty you are who you say you are. And that's only the beginning, Paul, because what we intend to do, that's our first product, but we're going to bring out products over the next year or two that's going to allow people, and by the way, we don't worry about doing it in noise. You know, on some of the existing devices,
Right.
If there's any noise in the background, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Our system works under all conditions. In fact, one of our folks has a young family. He took his car with our voice technology, and he wanted to be authenticated. Drove the car 65 miles an hour, rolled down the windows, turned down the radio, encouraged the kids to talk in the back of the car. Boom, he was right in.
Wow.
And this is the way it should be. And not too far distant future, we're going to be able to allow people to interact with their phones, their laptops, their tablets, their cars, their refrigerators, their stoves, their houses, and have an ability to communicate with it. And this is going to allow us, I hope, in a not-too-distant future, to get rid of keyboards. And now think of the impact on humanity. If we could get rid of keyboards on phones, on laptops or tablets, we get the cost down, we make it simpler, and now, all of a sudden, people who can't read or write, who can't do arithmetic, they could communicate with a device that's part of the internet, and all of a sudden they have opportunity to learn, to be educated by themselves. They could pull themselves up literally by their bootstraps, and it changes everything. And think of the hundreds of millions and billions of people on our planet in 2016 who can't read or write, who don't know arithmetic, and all of a sudden we've changed the equation.
Wow. Dan, I am speechless, my friend, because this is something that we truly need. And when we look at your team that you have assembled, Dan, you have put an all-star team together over at KnuEdge. And was that a difficult process to get all these working parts to go together and to see your vision?
I wish I could say it was easy, but it wasn't. And that's why it took so long. I mean, it took 10 years to put this team together. And our company is a little bit different than other companies. And I decided to locate in Southern California because we have a different pace. And Silicon Valley has done really, really great things. But a lot of the things that they do, people are expecting a payoff in 3 or 4 years. I knew this was going to be 10 to 15 years. And I needed to start the company in a place where I wasn't going to have to worry that people were going to start wanting to have cash out in 3 or 4 years, that they were in it for the long run. You know, we're mellow here in Southern California.
Yes, we are.
The other thing, the other thing that I really wanted to have for my fellow teammates is I wanted them to have courage to not be afraid to fail, because when you're going for transformational change to do the kind of things we just talked about, and I only talked about half our products, there are some others that we'll talk about later, but I wanted them not to be afraid to fail, to have patience, and to shoot for the stars. And we went out and asked people. In fact, one of the early ads we put together was to on Monster.com, not in the high technology intellectual journals or universities, but we went right to Monster.com, and I'll paraphrase it. I can't remember the exact words from our early ads, but it went something like this. If you're an incrementalist, if you're afraid of failure, if you're shooting for 5 or 10% improvements, you need not apply. But if you want to shoot for the stars, you're not afraid of failure, and you're looking for orders of magnitude improvement in technology to help people transform their lives and empower their lives, we want you to apply. We got some of the smartest people in the country to apply to our company. We got professors. We had a tenured professor in neuroscience who saw us on Monster.com. He applied, and now he's our chief scientist.
Wow. Dan, I should have had you write my proposal for my wife. You know, you're good at that.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I said I should have had you write the proposal for my wife the way you wrote up that ad to go on Monster.com. That's awesome. Now, Dan, you talked about some of your other products that we haven't been able to touch on yet, too. And why don't you share with us some of those other products you have as well?
Sure. Once we started developing algorithms, and by the way, let's stick with the speech products for a minute.
Okay.
I wanted to build algorithms that operated just like the way the neurons wired and fired together in the brain, because the human brain is unbelievable. You know, I could be in the middle of a football game with everyone talking and the speakers blaring, and I could hear any conversation. That's because there's nothing like the human brain.
That's true.
So we wanted to get people who understood neuroscience and rewrite the books on speech recognition. So we modeled our tools and our algorithms around how the brain works. And then we found we were using existing computers, and they weren't fast enough because neural calculations need a very special type of processing. So, you know, you got to be all in. So I said, you know what? I want to be all in, and I called the good folks at the University of California, San Diego, a fellow named Larry Smaw, who runs the Jacobs School of Cal IT2, California Institute of Telecommunications and Information Technology. And I said, Larry, we need to invent a new computer chip. So we worked with him, and he assigned a fellow named Doug Palmer to the project, who was on the faculty there. And Doug and I and a few others, we developed a computer chip that operates just like the human brain.
Wow.
And it does amazing things. And let me give you a non-technical term.
Okay.
It gets more miles per gallon than anything else. operations per second, per watt, per dollar. But I wanted to kind of make it a little visual.
Definitely.
And this computer chip is different because most computer chips, I'll use some technical terms for you, Paul.
Okay.
Most computer chips do dense matrix calculations. Very technical statement. But let me put it to you this way for visualization. We have a couple of 100 billion neurons in our brain. And each neuron is connected to only 10,000 to 100,000 other neurons. So, if you will, it has very sparse levels of connections. And no one had ever designed a computer to do something like that. And we wanted to develop a whole new set of algorithms so we could get much more efficiency for doing the kind of calculations we want to do to help people. We want to build machine intelligence, not just for speech, but we want to build machine intelligence that are going to help improve people's lives. So December, just before Christmas, our Christmas Eve 2015 gift was our first computer chip came out of the foundry, and it's a doozy.
Wow.
And this chip is going to help people access. You talked about the Internet of Things in your introduction. Mm-hmm. The Internet of Things is going to change everybody's lives because there are going to be sensors and processes all over the place. And let me give you just a few examples. It's called computing at the edge. Right now, people need to depend on a lot of things. And let's say I leave my house, and what if all of a sudden I have a massive water leak? I won't know till I come home and the house is flooded.
Yes, that's true.
But what if I have audio sensors in the house and I have a smart processor that could recognize gushing water? It could recognize someone in the house that doesn't belong there. It could know the voices of the people that belong there because they register with the system. So if someone breaks in and starts talking or does bad things, or a fire breaks out, it could hear the smoke alarms. So all of a sudden, I could get a text message to my cell phone, hey, buddy, you got trouble. Mm-hmm. Our computer chip is going to help do all those things.
Wow.
But more than that, this chip is going to help people take advantage of machines, and they won't even need a degree in computer science or software. And the chip will be able to be trained to help people do routine tasks. And all of a sudden, people could start working from their homes and have the power of a multi-billion-dollar company.
You know what, Dan? The theme music for my show, I talk about how technology is changing the game, and this technology right here is truly going to be a game changer out there in so many ways. I mean, your vision is limitless, and it's just I'm like in awe, talking to you about this, and you're like a wealth of knowledge when it comes to technology.
Well, I don't know if I'm a wealth of knowledge, but I certainly have a passion. My whole life, I've never worked on anything that's been done before. Mm-hmm. I love pushing the boundaries. I'm not afraid of failing. And every one of my teammates at KnuEdge, we all have the same shared vision, and we all want our technology to be useful so we can make money, but we also want to have our technology so it helps people have much higher quality lives.
Well said, well said. And Dan, what are some other innovations out there that your company is involved with? This speech one is amazing. What else do you guys have out there?
I talked about our computer chips operating at the edge. Mm-hmm. The other thing we do is we build processors for cloud computing. And cloud computing can get pretty expensive.
Yes, it can.
If you have to have too much equipment. So we believe that for many cloud computing applications, our chips will allow you to do more with less. For example, one rack of our chips, we believe, will be able to replace 5 to 10 racks of other chips.
Wow.
In fact, there was just a big announcement. The Chinese have now built their own chip, and they built the most powerful computers in the world. Hey, watch out. In a few years, our second generation chip is going to do a lot better with a lot less. At our company, at KnuEdge, we have an expression, less is more.
Yes. Absolutely. Like, and you hit it right on the head with cloud computing. I remember when cloud computing was maybe just a thought. I remember at the Consumer Electronics Show several years ago, we had a discussion about this, and we see now that cloud computing, you can get it on your smartphone, you can get it, cloud storage and computing on your smartphone, your tablet, and it's expounding. So we're glad that you can have that innovation out there to keep up with the times.
You know, there are a lot of great companies providing these services. You know, you got Amazon and Microsoft and Google, and we want to help them make it more accessible, make it less expensive.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And Dan, it's been an honor talking with you about the vision, about KnuEdge. And is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners, our viewers out there, or even young ones now who don't know the battles that you fought to even get here to have this company and this team? Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, two things. One, we live in an unbelievable country with incredible opportunity. And you don't have to wait till you're 65 to start a company. And that young people ought to feel empowered. And those young people who take advantage of their education and learn and have a vision are not afraid to fail. I've had failures in my career. They could change the future. And I hope a lot of them are listening. They are totally in charge of their future. And you could depend on others, but when you understand you're in charge of your future, you are in a position of control. And I hope they think this through, because the more people come up with innovations, the more we improve the economy, the more we improve the quantity, the more we create opportunity, and everyone begins to share in a high expectation for great opportunity for life. That's my first message.
Amazing.
My second message is very parochial. Watch KnuEdge, because I described some really exciting things, but in a year or two, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I love that, Dad. And we're definitely going to be watching that. And Steve, did you have something you want to add to it too, my friend?
I do, thanks. You know, the other thing I would say is, you know, KnuEdge is proof that you can take an alternative approach to developing technology, and if you're, as Dan has said, really aiming for transformation, you have to take a different approach to deliver, you know, truly different technology. So I'll just say that, you know, we're delighted that the response we've seen from our announcement, and the credit goes to Dan for how he approached building his business.
Awesome. And I just want to let you know, gentlemen, it's been an honor having you on the Tech Zone, and you're welcome back anytime you want to share any breaking news about KnuEdge, or you just want to come on and talk tech. You guys are more than welcome. And Steve, thank you so much. And Dan, it's been an honor, my friend, just to talk to you. Some things you've done, it's truly amazing. And thank you both so much for joining us on the Tech Zone.
Hey, Paul, keep it up, because we need to make science not threatening. We need to make technology not threatening.
Absolutely.
Your show really helps people understand without needing a PhD to listen. Keep it up, you too, Paul.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you guys so much. Wasn't that an amazing interview right there? I'm so happy I was able to right the wrong. But it taught me something. If you are just getting into the broadcasting field, never overbook your show, because if you do, you'll make a boneheaded mistake like I did last week, cutting Dan Goldin's wonderful interview short. But I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to play it in its entirety. Dan is an amazing person. I'm privileged to get a chance to meet him and Steve Cummins from KnuEdge. Just great innovation, great company. I'm actually going to have the ability to tour the facility, hopefully when I'm covering Comic-Con in a few weeks in San Diego. So Dan and Steve and the crew, thank you so much. It was an honor to talk to you, talk about your vision, and we look forward to talking to you soon. All right, well, we'll be back right after these messages talking about some smart home innovation. Yes, can you feel it? Yes, I can feel it. Having fun out there. This is the Tech Zone. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. Be right back after these messages.